Unfortunately, we're a week late with this video, but welcome back to the Double Deck Garage. This is video number 4 in my project Bangy McBangFace series. That's the MGTF 160, the VVC, that I picked up as a non-runner. It is now running. This was going to be a keeper for me. I've ended up spending so much money on my 135 that I now need to claw some money back, so this is now going to be a flip project. I'm going to get it running beautifully, cleaned up, needs quite a few new parts, fully serviced, etc, etc, and then it's going to be up for sale. Spent a while on Google last night and visiting various parts sites, ordering up loads of bits and pieces for this. Got a new cat coming, I've got a new exhaust coming, cambelt tensioner, water pump, all the service items. So this car's going to get gone over from top to bottom, and at the end of this exercise it should be a pretty smart car. And the idea is that I'm not going to want to sell it. I've got to sell it, but I want it so good that I don't want to sell it, if that makes sense. Bangy McBangFace, by the way, was Swampy's suggestion. Big Size suggested Chitty Bang Bang, and my suggestion was Project Semtex.
Can you just try cranking it again? Yeah. Whoa!
Yeah. I ordered these a couple of days ago and they arrived this morning. Nice. Yesterday's couple of hours cleaning session was a good start. There's a lot more to do. Once the car is drivable, I can move it into an area where I've got some more space. The seats are going to come out, carpets are going to get washed, seats are going to get washed. Like I say, going to make this look pucker. Still a few more marks on it, but this stuff has done a good job. Time for a quick interior clean. I'm waiting on parts at the moment, but one job I can do is remove the old timing belt in readiness for the new one. We've done timing belts before on the channel, so not going to video this in too much detail. Basically, it's a case of lining up the timing marks, locking the cams, removing the top engine mount, removing the tensioner, and then the belt itself can come off. In theory, not too difficult a job. It's made a bit more difficult by working in such a tight space. Shouldn't be too difficult, but sometimes it can be a pig. If there is one job that I don't enjoy doing, is a real pain, it's removing this, the top engine mount. They can be pretty difficult to get off. I've been in there for a while, and obviously because they're holding the engine in place, all the bolts have to be torqued tight, get a bit rusty, and I suppose it gets hot and cold and all that, and they do end up getting sort of fairly well stuck in place. So you have to get that off to get the belt off, and unfortunately whilst I was doing that, I found the hydro mount's knackered. Unfortunately, when taking out the hydro mount, one of the bolts snapped. It's in a bit of an awkward place, so it's not going to be a particularly easy job to remove it. That's not bad. So I've run into a bit of a problem getting this bolt drilled out. I've given it a go, I've not made a very good job of it. It's just it's just so difficult to get to, either from underneath the car, from the wheel arch, or from the engine bay. I think what I'm going to have to do is take the buttress out, if I can get that out, so I'm going to give that a go now. It's the next day. I've had a look at the buttress. I don't think it's going to come out without broken bolts. That would probably put me in a worse situation than I'm in at the moment, so I'm going to have a rethink about seeing what I can do with the buttress in situ. Plenty of parts been turning up over the last couple of days. Picked up these from Brown & Gammon earlier. Oil filter, I think that came from GSF. And also from GSF we have a water pump and a new timing belt. I also have from MG Obsession, I have the auxiliary belt and temperature sensor. From Rimmers, stop lamp switch and hydro mount. For the tooling perspective, I've picked this up. It's a drill extension, and hopefully this will give me the access that I didn't have the other day to the buttress, and this will hopefully allow me to do the job properly, because obviously I couldn't the other day. This is obviously what I should have done in the first place. I've now got straight access to that bolt hole, so I can drill out the rest of the bolt. It will leave me with a bigger hole in the buttress than I should have, but I can get around that. I can get a bit of aluminium tube in there, bond that in with JB Weld, and then I think that'll be a pretty good fix. So I'm a lot more optimistic. You could see by the expression on my face yesterday. I was pretty upset with the job I'd done. I was annoyed with myself. Yeah, I obviously should have done better, but I think this is a proper recovery, and I think tomorrow I'm going to crack on with that in daylight, and hopefully that'll be job done and I can crack on with the project. I pretty much sorted out the not particularly good job I did of drilling out the broken bolt. The work area has now had a good clean, and I think I'm ready to put the timing belt on. However, as always, time for a cup of tea. First job, before putting the timing belt itself on, is to put the new water pump on. It's held on by 5 bolts and there's a replacement seal. Every time I do this job I forget that one bolt on the back that holds the upper rear cam cover. That's the new water pump in place, torqued up to 10 Newton meters, and I even remembered to do the bolt on the back. The timing belt tensioner is held in place by an Allen bolt. Worth noting that the VVC engine has the manual tensioner. This bolt is the one that locks the tensioning mechanism in place. This is a temporary spring that helps with the fitting. The adjustment bolt is torqued up to 10 Newton meters, and the Allen bolt in the pulley is torqued up to 45 Newton meters. Just got to take the spring off and the little pillar, and then that's that finished. Timing belt change, just need to rotate the engine a couple of times and check that all the timing marks still line up. I've put the crankshaft back to where it started, as you can see by the marks here. They do, so that's absolutely perfect. So I double checked everything's torqued up properly, the cover's back on, the harmonic balancer's back on, and the car's been started on the button, and it sounds perfect. Next job I think is to get the exhaust done. I haven't forgotten to do the back timing belt, but I want to get the exhaust on so I can actually run the car for more than a couple of seconds without scaring the local wildlife and annoying the neighbours. So lots of rusty bolts everywhere again. The heat proofing sheet is in poor condition, so I'm going to have to decide whether to repair that or replace it. Not incredibly cheap to replace, funny enough, although I may actually order up some aluminium and make one myself. And I think before anything else I need to get the lambda sensor out of the old cat. Truth is, I don't even know if this lambda sensor is going to work or not. It's been in this old cat for a long time. It may have got damaged when the exhaust went bang, but we'll give it a go. We'll see if it works or not. With my propane gas setup, I can't get enough heat into it to free it up. Probably needs oxyacetylene or something like that. I'll give it a go with the duck oil, see if it will free up. The worst comes to worst, I just had to buy a new lambda sensor. Generally the underside of this car is pretty good, but where the exhaust shield fits, it's actually pretty rusty. I think obviously it gets wet, it gets a lot of heat. I think these bolts, I've managed to get one out, but I think most of these bolts are going to break. Overall it's going really quite well. All the bolts are out now. A couple of the cap nuts have got damaged or ripped off, so what I do need to do is just weld in a couple of new ones. So the holes have been drilled out with a stepper drill, been thoroughly cleaned up, and I'm now just going to weld these two new nuts in. The battery's off the car and the MEMS 3 ECU is disconnected. The original plan was basically to fill the holes with the nut. That wouldn't work. I just could not weld the nut to the frame and get it to stay in place. So what I've ended up doing was cutting some 1.5mm mild steel, welding the nut to the steel, and then welding the mild steel to the frame, and that seems to have worked really well. It's a couple of days later and I now have this. MGF and TF Bits actually had this on their website for £75, so to be honest it wasn't really worth even thinking about making one up. It was just cheaper to buy it, and I've got a complete new exhaust mounting kit as well. That was a bit of a fight to get fitted. Aftermarket cat, aftermarket exhaust, nothing fitted absolutely 100%, but I got there in the end. You'll have noticed that there is something missing from the side of the exhaust as well. That didn't make life any easier, but like I say, got there in the end. Not that it's cold out here, but it's been like this all day. I've been out here for a few hours. I bolted the suspension back together. Everything's been torqued up correctly. The auxiliary belt is back on the car. I have had the brake disc off and given that a clean with a wire wheel. Came off quite easily. There were definitely signs that there's been copper grease on there before. Looks like it's been properly serviced, looked after, properly maintained. That's back on the car now. Obviously I've reconnected the ECU, reconnected the battery, started the car, and with the new exhaust it sounds quite good. The rear offside is all back together and the front offside is off for a clean up. Well, it runs and moves, brakes feel okay, clutch feel okay. We'll have to see what it's like at decent speed, but it is at least a running, moving car, which is pretty good in its own right. Well, that's the first time the car's moved under its own steam since certainly before I had it, and I bought it in September 2021, so quite pleased with that. It still feels pretty good. Throttle's not sticking, brakes aren't sticking, clutch isn't sticking. Yeah, it still feels like it's going to be a nice car, so I shall just crack on with it. I've got fluid changes to do. Want to sort the cooling system before I do too much else, then oil change, brake fluid change, clutch fluid change, then I can start thinking about getting it in for an MOT and see what the tester says and take it from there. So for the time being, thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back as soon as I can with what will probably be the last video on this, it's not really restoration, is it? Recommissioning, I think that's the right word, isn't it? So hopefully I'll be back with the last video in this series for recommissioning pretty soon. Thanks, bye.